When Rick Harrison, the calm, smiling, quick-witted pawnshop boss beloved by audiences of Pawn Stars, was summoned by the FBI under shocking accusations of human trafficking and running a criminal enterprise, his once friendly image shattered before the public's eyes. In Clark County Court, the trial unfolded swiftly. With insufficient evidence to convict, Rick was released, leaving the public bewildered while the media erupted with sensational headlines from television icon facing death penalty to Rick Harrison, innocent or protected. Yet just a month later, the FBI delivered a decisive blow. In a dramatic raid on Rick's home, agents uncovered a sophisticated criminal network with Rick at its very core. From caches of illegal weapons to stolen artifacts, every clue pointed squarely at him. Rick was rearrested and brought back to court, but this time, confronted with an overwhelming mountain of irrefutable evidence, he chose silence, as if surrendering to his fate. Was Rick merely a pawn himself, ensnared by a shadowy force seeking to eliminate a dangerous witness, or had he been the mastermind pulling the strings all along? As the mask falls away, the truth can no longer be hidden. In early April 2025, inside the cold, echoing courtroom of Clark County, Las Vegas, Rick Harrison, star of Pawn Stars, walked in looking worn down, his shirt collar rumpled, eyes clouded as if shielding secrets. The federal charges landed like a sledgehammer: human trafficking, artifact smuggling, money laundering, and orchestrating a sophisticated criminal network. The witty, affable man once seen on television was nowhere to be found. Now Rick stood alone beneath the gaze of a courtroom full of judgment. What was expected to be a lengthy trial ended in mere hours. The judge, citing lack of sufficient evidence, dismissed the case. Rick walked out into a suffocating silence, broken only by the click of camera shutters. On Twitter, debates exploded. Fans were torn. Was Rick truly innocent, or was an invisible hand pulling strings behind the curtain? Was this his deliverance, or just the calm before justice struck back? No one could have predicted what came next. Just a month later, the FBI returned, this time armed with razor-sharp evidence, dragging Rick back into a legal storm with no clear way out. Less than a month after Rick walked out of the courtroom, the FBI delivered a decisive blow, shaking the name that once symbolized Pawn Stars to its core. On a gloomy morning, federal agents stormed Rick's luxurious Summerlin home in Las Vegas in a meticulously planned operation. This time, the FBI came armed with razor-sharp evidence, from a cache of weapons to stolen antiquities, wiping out any prior doubts. Rick was arrested on the spot, handcuffed before dozens of reporters, camera lenses, and the stunned eyes of neighbors. The arrest sent Twitter into a frenzy, with #Rick Harrison arrested surpassing 5 million mentions within 24 hours. Federal authorities released a chilling new list of charges: illegal weapons possession, drug trafficking, and most shockingly, possession of an artifact believed to have vanished from the Vatican archives in 1973. The arrest felt like a card laid bare on the table, exposing dark secrets Rick thought he had buried forever, stunning the nation and prompting a burning question: was this the end of his empire? The raid was sparked by a deadly tip-off. A former employee of the gold and silver pawn shop, silent for years, finally came forward to the FBI with details of the shadowy dealings Rick had carefully concealed. From there, agents traced the clues to a hidden warehouse in the suburbs of Henderson, where they uncovered an illegal weapons stockpile: 15 automatic rifles, 7 unregistered handguns, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition, enough to arm a small militia. But that wasn't all. In the same warehouse, agents found 3 kilograms of pure cocaine and a large quantity of methamphetamine, cleverly hidden in boxes labeled antiques. Each drug package was wrapped with care, as though it were a prized item in Rick's collection. The discovery turned the once beloved pawn shop into the centerpiece of a dangerous criminal network, where antiques carried not only the scent of history, but also the stench of gunpowder and crime. The most shocking highlight of the arrest was a mysterious artifact: a finely engraved silver urn, believed to have belonged to the Vatican archives and stolen in a daring heist in 1973. The FBI announced that the item, worth millions on the black market, had been stored in a hidden vault beneath the warehouse floor. Experts from the Vatican were flown in to verify its authenticity. They confirmed it was a sacred relic once used in 17th century religious rituals. How could such an object of historical and spiritual value end up in Rick's possession? The question sent international media into a frenzy, spawning headlines like "From Pawn Stars to the Vatican: the mystery of the stolen artifact and Rick Harrison, treasure hunter or international thief." Some speculated the relic was only the tip of the iceberg, and that Rick might be entangled in a global heritage smuggling ring. But the hardest blow came from Sarah, Rick's adopted daughter. In a tense courtroom, Sarah, 28, pale-faced and trembling, revealed a horrifying truth. For years, her father had used the Pawn Star's fame as a cover to transport illegal antiquities, hide drugs in shipments, and store weapons at pawn shop branches. Raised under her father's spotlight, Sarah had once worked as an assistant at the shop, witnessing shady deals but being forced into silence. Her testimony cut like a blade through familial bonds, leaving the courtroom frozen as Rick sat motionless, silent, and unable to deny a word. Her painful decision to expose him tore away the final veil hiding his crimes. Before the courtroom could recover, another shock hit. Austin Chumley Russell, Rick's friend of 2 decades, took the witness stand. Avoiding eye contact, Chumley reluctantly testified that Rick had used the pawn shop as a front for drug transactions, as if he had been coerced into breaking a sacred vow of loyalty. Rick was immediately detained, pending further investigation into the alleged international criminal network. The arrest didn't just collapse the empire of a television star, it laid bare a bitter truth: the glow of fame may mask darkness, but it cannot hide forever from justice. Reputation, wealth, even family, all evaporated when the truth came to light. This second arrest wasn't just another blow to Rick's already cracked image, it reignited suspicions about the unseen forces behind him. Why was a man once set free now dragged back into legal chaos with such damning evidence? Had the FBI set a silent trap, waiting for Rick to dig his own grave? Observant reporters noted that this time, Rick barely resisted. His face was stone cold, eyes empty, as though he had known this day would come. American and international media seized the moment, covering every detail from photos of Rick being escorted in a storm of flashbulbs to deep-dive reports on how a television icon became the center of one of the century's most shocking criminal cases. The online community was equally ablaze. The hashtag #RickHarrison arrested quickly surpassed 5 million mentions on Twitter, sparking polarizing debate. Loyal fans insisted he was framed, while justice advocates stressed that no one is above the law. One viral Reddit post posed the haunting question: is Rick really the mastermind, or just a pawn in a much bigger? Whatever the answer, this second blow had torn off Rick Harrison's final mask. Like a game of fate playing its final hand, no one would walk away unscathed. Pawn Stars once raised him to stardom. Now Rick stood on the edge of the abyss. Every step he took could lead straight to death's door. After his second arrest, the story surrounding Rick Harrison, the star of Pawn Stars, grew even more mysterious and grim. No direct witnesses, no formal accusations from former close associates, everything seemed to sink into a chilling silence. Yet it was precisely this silence that fueled suspicions. Who was trying to silence Rick, and why? A leaked photo circulating on social media sent the internet into a frenzy. Rick, seated in a deserted cafe facing a shadowy figure rumored to be a former CIA operative with a murky past. Rick's expression in the photo was tense, his eyes cold and sharp, a stark contrast to the jovial persona he displayed on television. But that wasn't all. A brief, low-quality audio recording surfaced on the dark web, enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Amid the static, Rick's voice could be heard, filled with menace. "I know what you did in '86. A cryptic statement, yet haunting enough to leave listeners unnerved. It wasn't just a warning, it was a ticking time bomb, hinting that Rick possessed secrets powerful enough to shake the highest echelons of influence. The greater shock came with theories involving Austin Chumley Russell, Rick's close friend of over 2 decades. Some sources whispered that Chumley, with his seemingly naive demeanor, might actually have been a puppet for a hidden kingpin, the one orchestrating Rick's downfall. Could it be that Chumley, under pressure or seduced by ambition, leaked information to the FBI, leading to Rick's second arrest? His tearful testimony in court, although emotionally charged, left many skeptical. Why had he remained silent for so long before finally speaking out? Was someone manipulating Chumley behind the scenes, using him as a pawn to muzzle Rick before he could expose the truth about the year 1986? This was no longer a tale of antiques or drugs, it had morphed into a dark warning from the shadows, where power and secrets intertwined. Rick, once the centerpiece of fame and fortune, now found himself prey in a much larger game. Who was truly pulling the strings to silence him forever, and would he manage to turn the tables before everything came crashing down? The international community of antique collectors is in turmoil. No one could have predicted that the man who once stood behind the counter of the famed Las Vegas pawn shop, Rick Harrison, would now be sitting behind bars awaiting investigation. The latest accusations have moved far beyond mere rumor. The FBI has officially confirmed Rick's arrest following the discovery of a cache of illegal weapons, controlled substances, and documents tied to transnational money laundering operations. The raid was carried out in silence, but its impact was deafening. Rick is no longer seen as the witty narrator of Pawn Stars. He is now the central figure in a dark criminal case, with layers of secrets yet to be uncovered. Pawn Stars is no longer just a reality show. It has become the backdrop for a mystery waiting to be buried. This time there's no bail. The detention order was signed overnight. A full-scale federal investigation has been launched. And while the world struggles to make sense of what the hell just happened, Rick Harrison, the man who once bought people's forgotten relics, is now the one being bought off or silenced. In a world where the spotlight can mask even the darkest shadows, the case of Rick Harrison is more than just a tale of a fallen star. It's a bitter reminder of how easily people trade genuine values for fleeting fame. We grew up watching Pawn Stars, believing in the American dream: work hard, know your history, buy low and sell high. But when that polished surface begins to crack, what remains is a haunting question: where does a person's true worth really lie? The real lesson belongs to the audience, the ones so easily captivated by a kind smile, a clever joke, or a few well-edited minutes of television. Fame is no guarantee of virtue. Knowledge doesn't always come hand in hand with kindness. And no antique, however valuable, can shield anyone from the harsh weight of truth. Rick once put a price on everything, but forgot the one thing that's priceless: integrity. And when we start assigning value to the wrong things, money, power, fame, we're not gaining anything. We're bargaining away our own lives. This story isn't meant to rob viewers of their faith in people, but to urge us to look more closely, not just at the object on the table, but at the person behind it. Because in the end, the most precious thing worth collecting isn't a rare artifact, it's dignity. And that, unlike the treasures Rick once appraised, can neither be bought nor forged. Rick Harrison once stepped into the world as a man who priced the past, but perhaps he never imagined that one day the past would return to put a price on him. Accusations, evidence, and even betrayal from those once close to him. All of it begs the question: is someone trying to bury him in a game of power? Or is this simply the inevitable consequence of a life built on merchandise and lies? The story doesn't end here, and perhaps the most terrifying part is what we still don't know. What do you think? Is Rick the mastermind behind it all, or just a pawn sacrificed in a much larger conspiracy? Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe. More shocking stories are coming. Because the truth, like any antique, only reveals its worth when someone brave enough dares to turn it over.